Welcome to the Monte Carlo. It is the opening round of the Intercontinental Rally Challenge, and it's the centenary year. So what a backdrop, what a stage for them to perform on, and they have been doing that. The entire field of stars here, all 120 cars and their drivers and co-drivers. 128.37 kilometers in total on day one. Day two, just 94.36 to contend with, but also some very changeable weather and an awful lot to think about before the transfer, of course, to the final and ultimate night stages on the Col de Torini. The Monte Carlo, it's long lived in our memory, and indeed it's the past few generations as well have enjoyed what it has to offer. 120 crews made the cut after out of 300 who applied to be part of this event. Infamous unpredictable weather conditions on this, one of the most technically difficult and physically challenging rallies there is. Yes, with an incredible entry list, including some big names: reigning champion Johan and Peter Solberg, Francois Delacour, Stefan Sarrazin, former Formula One driver Alex Caffey and Peggy Anderson also here, and yeah, the crews ready to put their names into the history books. Several of those chapters have already been written, as you know. Crowds turning out in Valence. An awful long way to go then, ahead of the start for these gentlemen and ladies. So what was in the offing on the opening day when the sun came up? Le Moulin en Trège, and then a couple of runs through the Saint-Bonnet-le-Foy. Didn't really get that far, unfortunately. Andreas Mikkelsen, an innocuous looking bump after what, just a few hundred meters into this year's rally. Unfortunately enough to put him out. Suspension damage it was. The cold wind that blows around this part of the world to blame, reducing tyre temperatures before the start.
Definitely cold tires was the problem. We warmed the tires very good up before the first stage, and standing there for 3 minutes, and of course it's cold outside, so the tires were completely cold again after that. So big shame, but I would never imagine the tires being so warm and so cold in only 3 minutes. So basically the first proper right-hand corner, which was quite twisty, the car just slid out, so no chance.
He and Chris Atkinson out on the opening stage. Thierry Neuville also. Nico Vujas hasn't been in a rally car for a year. Only participated in the Rally of Monte Carlo last time by. Finished in third place, don't forget. But yeah, a bad start for Vujas. A puncture early on the newly gravelled surface here. So an all-tarmac event, apparently, with a bit of gravel to deal with as well.
So Proton were back with PG Anderson and Chris Atkinson. You already know that Chris Atkinson only made it 700 metres into the first stage, just about as far as Mikkelsen, and unfortunately PG didn't go much further. He was with us today. He said it was just a small mistake, hit a big rock and ripped a corner off. What can you do? Sarrazin came straight out of the box in the opening day and was absolutely superb. In fact, the time that he set was more than a benchmark. It was making us wonder whether the timings were actually working properly. Only when Euro Hallinen came out on stage and did a similar job. Peter Solberg, well, he was just getting to grips with the vehicle. Sixth quickest early on, gradually got faster and faster, and was really opening his account here with a car that he rather likes the feel of finally. Yes, he does. It's taken him a little while to get his head around it, but he has. Freddie Loix doesn't need any time to get his head around this car. Of course, he took 3 out of 4 wins on tarmac last year in the Skoda Fabia S2000. It was a great job for him on day one of the Monte as well. Yes, fast Freddie finishing the day in second place, actually. He won the last stage of the day, the final run through Saint-Bonnet-le-Foy. Yes, and Le Foy very, very cold indeed. Euro Hallinen, though, absolutely red hot. He only lost out on 2 stages on the day, won the other 2, and the ones that he missed out on were by less than a second in second place. So he was
no problem with the car and no mistakes, and we had quite good tires for all of these stages, and cannot be disappointed.
Can't be disappointed, must have been delighted, but his demeanour does not let that show. He's One cool cookie. Freddie Leutz 44.5 seconds behind him. Peter Solberg also under a minute. So was Sarazan, carrying that advantage into the back of the day, despite fading just a little bit. The great Francois Delacour down in 8th place. Bouffier, the French champion, running in 7th. And look at that, they were both, well, a minute and 36 and a minute and 52 down. So time for some respite and a quick look back at the clubbers here. Tony Darjeem, one of the references of British motorsport, he likes to call himself. General good guy, bit of a journo these days, a television presenter, as you know, and likes his rallying as well.
It was absolutely unbelievable. The first thing was I'm actually driving in the Monte Carlo rally, so that was wonderful. And the stages were just supreme. It was so challenging. To get to the end of the first day and survive was very important for us, but we just had a brilliant day.
So you still enjoy your rally?
Look at my face.
He's been like that since he came here. It's his first Monte, although he's done 18 global rallies along with a different journalist every single time. We'll be back with more after this. The Rally Monte Carlo, paying tribute to French history along the way. Big battle between the German and French peoples, of course, in this part of the world, and a graveyard to the resistance, to those who lost their lives.
C'est un événement extraordinaire. Moi, je ne remercierai
It's an outstanding event, says Daniel Guillaume. He says, I just can't say enough about the organisers and the Automobile Club of Monaco. It's an honour of being part of this rally. It's the 100th anniversary, and when I was a kid, I remember, he says, just some of the mountains of Royan, the Beuzet, the Beurre, the local wind blowing. He says, I was freezing. I was only 12 or 13, waiting for the cars and the Alpine Berlinette coming by, the Lancia Stratos, and it was the ultimate pleasure. I still love this story. Between the Drôme and the Monte Carlo, there is a great link, he says. We had a bit of a link today as well. Twice through the same stages today. Special stage 5 was our opener, yes, and a difficult one for some. Nico Vuillos, yeah, feeling better with the car than he did on the second day, getting a bit more confidence and just trying to take that extra step forward. The car running well for him early on.
Well, he's been away for a year, hasn't he, Carlton? You can't just come back to this level of the IRC and expect to compete at the very highest level. So yesterday his stage times increased on each day, and today it was a better performance right from the start.
Julien Morin was one of those early on as well, in his Yakos-sponsored Ford here, Sport Machine. Yes, took soft tyres. It was a good choice early on in the day, but he was to root tyre choice a little bit later on. So was Vuillos, incidentally. Yes, you might guess from the tone of voice that weather conditions were changeable on the day. Jean-Sébastien Voignon, tyres just a little bit too soft, but he didn't seem to learn the message, it has to be said. Yeah, it was getting found out, unfortunately. A lack of experience, perhaps. It seems that if you've got a bit of an old head on, or is it an old head on young shoulders? No, it's the other way around. A young head, maybe, but Francois Delacour just had it all wrapped up today, didn't he? Experience played a vital role.
He did. Francois Delacour pushing 50, I suppose you could say. He's got an old head on old shoulders, but he certainly wasn't lacking pace today, and wait and see what he did this afternoon. Happy with his time. Car worked better than the S8, stiffened it up a little bit.
Yeah, Delacour kind of hovering around about the 8th spot. Bouffier, well, he is French champion, defending French champion, local knowledge in this part of the world, does a lot of running around here, and he was running into some very, very good results. Yeah, Bouffier, in fact, taking stage 6, only the only man to humble the rest of the field, effectively, and doing a super job. The weather was about to change, though. Would there be another story to tell? Let's find out how he was feeling at this point. Happy day. The car got repaired yesterday after a bit of a problem with the diff yesterday. Now everything's okay. I've got the car back, the feeling with the car. And yeah, it's very, very, very much more in my hand. The dynamics are there. And I think I will take a few steps forward overall. Monte Carlo's like that, he says. You can never do too much too quickly, he says, in the general classification. On board with Guy Wilkes.
Guy said that his tyres were maybe a little bit too hard on special stage 5. He had a bit of a moment near the start of the stage which knocked his confidence. And on special stage 6, after a steady start, good rhythm.
yeah, kind of hovering around 5th or 6th place, Guy. He and Phil Pugh doing a super job out there. Kind of a regular at the moment. He has made the transition to Peugeot, said it couldn't have been more comfortable. Loves the car, and they love him there as well amongst the team. Great atmosphere. Kopecky, well, he's had a steady run, let's put it that way, but yes, it was later on that Kopecky would opt for the Inter tyres, which would probably be a choice that many would rue. At this point it was still dry, but the clouds were starting to come to us, weren't they? Finishing in 5th place, 6th on the stage, 5th overall, so top 5 for Kopecky. He wants to take a few more steps further forward than that.
So Sarazan said the car was sliding too much. Some of the turns were very slippery. We could still see damp patches under the trees, and despite the fact there wasn't any snow at this point, the temperature was down in the minuses at certain points on the stage, -7.
Yeah, Freddie Loix has been having a rare old time, but it was a swapped place for him with Peder Solberg, unfortunately. Loix had an off on the special stage 6, and as a result he dropped from 2nd to 3rd place. Peder Solberg was the man that was on his case, and yeah, he was feeling a bit soft yesterday in terms of his setup. Freddie Loix, though, still looked extremely quick. 7th quickest on stage 5, 9th quickest though after his little excursion on stage 6. Freddie tumbling, but still in the top 3.
So after a steady start on day 1 where Solberg lost nearly 30 seconds towards the start of the day, he'd been climbing up the leaderboard. Special stage 5 he took soft tyres, he said they were okay. Special stage 6 went quite well, and he was pleased with his day so far. Unfortunately, as you'll soon see, his afternoon wasn't quite so spectacular.
Yes, and he wasn't the only big name to get bitten by the Monte Carlo. Everyone was surprised, incidentally, apart from certain Mr. Delacour and a certain Mr. Bouffier, as you will see after the break. Solberg, though, at this point, up into 2nd place, absolutely cock-a-hoop. He was back to his old Hollywood smile out there. What about Johanan? Well, taking stage 5, and yeah, on stage 6, I think possibly just riding his advantage ever so slightly, just easing him out just a little bit. Didn't want to push too hard because, quite frankly, he had such a cushion, didn't he?
Well, Hanlon was in a really difficult position. He had a 45-second lead in the day before. He was the only person not to make a Duff tyre choice on day 1. Took a fastest time on 5 and thanked the Ice Note crew for getting everything just bang on. Special stage 6, said it was a nice stage, careful towards the end and lost a bit of time to Solberg, but okay for keeping the rhythm and holding that lead.
It was Bouffier that took that final stage, so really getting it back into his head in terms of wiring himself for winning. Hannon then on top, Loix and Solberg swapping places, but the gap still 51 seconds for Hannon going into the afternoon. And look what happened. We'll tell you about it after this. Stay with us. Michelin provides the teams with 5 types of tyres for the Monte Carlo: slicks, intermediates, rain, snow, and of course studded. Full range of choice for different conditions, and you need them here. Tyre choice, the main difficulty on a rally that has, well, is very well known for changeable conditions, as you can see. Well, since the start of the rally until 14:30 precisely, during leg 1, the beginning of leg 2, the question mark of a tyre choice. Slicks, okay. Soft, medium or hard compound was the question, something you had to answer.
Jusqu'à présent, même si les routes sont toujours très difficiles.
Until now, if the roads are still very difficult, conditions are humid, a little bit moist or a bit icy. But now everyone talks about snow being a possibility. What's going to happen locally? What's going to fall down locally? Whether it will just be local or throughout the entire stage. Precisely where it's going to be. The choice, right or wrong, has to be made. Snow, how much? Where is it going to be? How deep? How icy? You just don't know. That's what I call.
Là, il faudra choisir dans 5 minutes les
well, in 5 minutes, you have to make a choice of tyres. We have to stay focused and stay calm. Everybody's talking about snow. Maybe it's going to rain, maybe it's going to snow. The road is, well, only wet at the moment. Maybe it's going to get lot, maybe it's going to turn white. Nobody knows. We're listening for information. Well, the situation difficult to call for everyone in intermediate service. Difficult situation. Johanan is our leader, don't forget.
With these conditions, it's nothing 50 seconds, so so much can happen. So it's like rally started again from the zero now. Nothing is clear yet, and still, even we need to know the tires after a few minutes. We are not completely sure what we will put and then. But It's interesting for everyone, and we will see what we can find from the stages.